There are people who will tell you that silver is destined to fail, that every time it climbs, it is going to crash right back down and take your money with it. And if you have been watching this year, you might believe them because silver just did exactly that. I want to show you why that is only half true. And I want to show you the half that nobody explains, because that is the half that decides whether a silver crash wipes you out or hands you the buy of your life. Picture a cold morning in January of 1980 in a little coin shop just down the road from the Los Angeles airport. There is a line out the door and around the block. Grown men are standing on the sidewalk in the cold, holding tickets like it is a deli counter, because the shop has run out of the little numbered slips and had to start turning people away until the next day. Two brothers from Texas, Nelson Bunker Hunt and his brother Herbert, have been buying up silver by the ton, trying to corner the entire market, and they have dragged the price from around $6 an ounce up to nearly $50 an ounce in a matter of months. Everyone in that line is sure it is going to 100, and then on a Thursday in March the whole thing broke. Silver fell off a cliff. Inside a couple of years it was back under $5 an ounce. The men who bought at the top, the ones standing in that line, most of them never got their money back. Not that year, not that decade. So here is the question this whole video is built to answer. Is that just what silver does? Is it always going to run up and then betray you? Or is there one thing, one single difference, that separates the people who got destroyed by a silver crash from the people who got rich off the exact same crash? There is, and I am going to give it to you before the end with the number that proves it. Stay with me, because if you own even a single ounce of silver, this is the most important thing you can understand. For about 50 years now, you have been told that silver is a gamble, that it belongs on the same shelf as lottery tickets and racehorses, a thing you bet on and probably lose. And I have to be honest with you, because I have watched people lose real money on it. But that story has it exactly backwards. Silver did not used to be the gamble. Silver used to be the safe thing, the boring thing, the money in your grandmother's coffee can that was still worth something after the paper in the bank had lost its shine. Our grandparents did not think of silver as a bet. They thought of it as savings you could hold in your hand. In fact, until 1965, the coins in your pocket in this country were made of the stuff. A dime was silver, a quarter was silver. Then the government took the silver out and handed you a copper slug with a thin coat of nickel and told you it was the same thing. It was not the same thing, and your grandparents knew it. We are the ones who got taught to see silver as a casino chip, and we got taught that by the same people who would rather you kept your money where they can use it, and it went further than the coins. In 1933, the government made it a crime for an ordinary American to own gold at all. They called it in, you had to hand it over, and then they turned around and marked the price up on you. It stayed illegal right through the Depression and the war and beyond, all the way to 1974, when they finally let you own it again. Think about that. For more than 40 years in this country, it was against the law to hold the oldest money on earth. The men who kept a little gold anyway, in a coffee can or the back of a drawer, were not criminals in any way that matters. They were just people who trusted metal more than they trusted a promise, and history proved them right every time. That is the wisdom that got taken from us, and getting it back is what this channel is about. My name is Hank, and for 35 years I have been stacking physical silver and gold straight through every boom and every crash you have heard about today. I am not a dealer, and I have nothing to sell you, no coins, no newsletter, no buy button. This is education, not financial advice, so please do your own homework before you do anything. Now, before we go any further, I have to be honest with you. Only a very small number of the people who watch this channel are actually subscribed. If you love understanding how real money actually works, how silver and gold behave when the world gets shaky, even half as much as I do, then do consider subscribing. It is completely free, and you can always change your mind later. It genuinely helps a working man keep making these. Right then, let us get into it, starting with the 3 great silver crashes and what they really teach you. The first one you already met, the Hunt brothers, 1979 into 1980. Silver from around $6 to nearly 50, then a collapse back toward 5. 2 rich men tried to own all of it. The exchange changed the rules on them, and the whole tower came down. Remember that shape, because you are going to see it 2 more times. The second great swing came in 2011. This one did not need any Texas brothers. This came in the years right after the big financial crash of 2008, when the banks were failing and the government was printing money to plug the holes, and ordinary people went looking for something real to hold on to. Silver climbed from single digits back up toward $50 an ounce again, right to the edge of that old 1980 high, and then it turned and it fell for years. Anyone who bought silver at $48 or $49 in the spring of 2011 sat underwater for a long, long time. Some of them are only getting back to even now, 15 years later. Same shape, run, peak, betrayal. And then the third one, the one you lived through this year. This one was the wildest of them all. Silver started 2026 around $70 an ounce, which was already a record that would have made the Hunt brothers dizzy. And then in January it went vertical. It hit a high of about $121 an ounce on the 29th of January. $121. Gold hit its own all-time high the same week, $5,589 an ounce. And then, in the space of about 30 hours, silver fell more than 30%. Gold dropped $380 in 28 minutes. 28 minutes. By the middle of the summer, silver had been cut clean in half, down into the high 50s. Today, as I sit here talking to you, it has clawed its way back to around $66, a 7-week high, and everyone is nervous all over again. That is 3 times now, across my lifetime, that silver has climbed to the mountaintop and then thrown a whole crowd of people off it. So I understand completely why somebody looks at that and says silver is destined to fail, 3 for 3. But here is your action for right now, before you decide anything. Go and look up those 3 dates for yourself, 1980, 2011, and this year. Do not take my word for it. Look at what silver was worth 5 years after each of those crashes, not 5 weeks after. Because the timeline you use is the whole game, and I am about to show you why. Now let me widen this out, because there is a piece here most people never get told. Why does silver do this when gold does not? Because gold this year came down from $5,500 to around $4,000 and then just sat there, steady as an old dog. It did not get cut in half, silver did. Every single time, silver falls harder and faster than gold. And that is not a flaw in silver. That is the nature of silver, and once you understand it, you will never panic again. Silver wears 2 hats at the same time. It is money, like gold, the thing people run to when they are frightened, but it is also an industrial metal, a working metal. It is in your solar panels, your phone, the electric cars, the missiles, the giant data centers they are throwing up for artificial intelligence. So when fear comes into the market, silver gets bought as money. But the moment people start worrying about a slowdown, silver gets sold as an industrial. It gets hit from both sides at the same time. That is why it swings twice as hard as gold. That is why the gold to silver ratio, the number of ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 single ounce of gold, blows out to 60 and 70 to 1 when things get rough. Right now it sits around 61 to 1, and yet they pull silver out of the ground at closer to 7 or 8 ounces for every ounce of gold that comes up with it. Sit with that gap for a second. 7 or 8 to 1 coming out of the ground, 61 to 1 at the register. That gap does not stay open forever. And there is one more thing that made this year's fall so violent, and you need to understand it because it is the key to everything. A lot of that selling in January was not people deciding silver was a bad idea. It was forced. When the price was screaming upward, the exchanges jacked up the amount of money you had to put down to hold a silver bet, and the traders who were playing with borrowed money suddenly had to sell, right now, whether they wanted to or not, just to cover themselves. Margin calls, forced selling. It is mechanical, it is brutal, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what an ounce of silver is worth to you and me. And here is the thing about forced selling, it burns itself out. The people who are forced to sell eventually run out of things to sell. But the people buying out of pure conviction, the ones who wanted metal all along, they never run out of conviction. That is why every one of these crashes has ended the same way. And here is a proof of how much a single piece of real metal can hold when the world finally decides it wants it. The most expensive coin ever sold at auction is an American gold coin, the 1933 Double Eagle. It sold in 2021 for $18.9 million, $18.9 million for one coin that started life as $20 of gold. Now I am not telling you the silver eagle in your drawer is going to be worth millions, I am telling you that the metal in your hand has held its worth across every collapse, every war, and every busted paper promise for longer than the United States has been a country. The paper is what fails. The metal just changes its price for a while, and then it comes home. Now, here is the part I promised you at the very start. The one thing that separates the men who got destroyed by a silver crash from the men who got rich off it. It is not the price. It is not timing the top like some genius. It is this. It is the difference between silver that is swinging wildly and silver that is sitting still. Let me explain, because this is the whole secret of the thing. When silver is exploding upward, $5, $6, $8 in a single day, that is when the crowds come running in. That is when your brother-in-law, who never bought a coin in his life, is suddenly on the phone asking you how to buy, and that same violence, that same wild swing, is exactly what throws everybody off the mountain on the way back down. Volatility is what ruins people, not silver, volatility. The men in that 1980 line did not lose because silver is bad. They lost because they bought into the frenzy, at the very top of the frenzy, on the day the swinging was at its most violent. The people who got rich did the opposite. They bought when it was boring, when silver was sitting dead still in a channel and nobody wanted it, when there were no lines and no tickets and no phone calls, cheap, sleepy, forgotten metal. That is the buy. The excitement is the trap. The boredom is the opportunity. Whatever you do, do not buy silver on the day it is screaming across the top of the news. That one rule alone would have saved every single man in that 1980 line. I will tell you a story on myself, because I earned this lesson the hard way. In the spring of 2011, when silver was running toward that old $50 high, I got caught up in it just like everybody else. I bought a good chunk near the top, $40-something an ounce, heart pounding, certain it was going to 100. It did not. It fell for years, and I stared at that number and felt like a fool every time I opened the drawer. But here is the thing, I did not sell. I kept stacking on the way down, boring ounce after boring ounce, when nobody else wanted it. And the ounces I bought in the sleepy years, at $18 and $20, more than made up for the ones I bought in the frenzy. The frenzy taught me nothing. The boredom paid for my patience. That is the lesson. Write it down. And that brings us to the darkest part of this, the part that makes people the angriest, and it is the reason silver never quite moves the way the school books say it should. Silver is a barometer. It reads the times, good times and bad, peace and war, honest markets and rigged ones. And yes, this market gets pushed around. I am not going to spin you a wild story, but I am also not going to insult you. In 2020, one of the biggest banks in the world, JP Morgan, paid the United States government a settlement of $920 million, nearly $1 billion. That was to settle charges that its traders had spent years spoofing the precious metals market, placing fake orders to shove the price of gold and silver around, and then yanking them back before they filled. That is not a rumor from a comment section. That is a matter of public record with a year and a number on it. People paid fines, some of them faced charges, and here is the honest part you need to hear. It was not some grand conspiracy aimed at you personally. It was just money. It is just how these giant paper markets work. When nobody is watching hard enough, the big players push the little players around because they can and because it pays them to. And that is not on you. If you bought at the top this January, if you got swept up in the frenzy, that is not a moral failing, and it does not make you a fool. You were standing exactly where the whole machine was built to make you stand, at the top, on the loudest day, feeling the most certain. You were sold to. That is a very different thing from being stupid, and I want you to hear the difference. Now here is the part that should make you sit up, because it is happening right now, while everyone panics. When silver crashed this year and the little players were dumping it, who was buying? The biggest, coldest, most patient money on earth, the central banks. The Silver Institute, which counts this for a living, tells us the world has been in a silver shortage for 6 years running now, and that more than 700 million ounces have been pulled out of the world's above-ground stockpiles since 2021. And the World Gold Council reports that central banks bought a record amount of gold this year in the very quarter that the price was falling the hardest. They did not buy the frenzy, they bought the boredom, they bought the fear. The smartest money in the world does the exact thing I just told you to do. and they do it with a straight face while the news screams crash. So let me pull all the way back now and show you the whole sweep of it. Is silver destined to fail? No. Silver is destined to swing because it is a working man's metal that also happens to be money, and it will always read the fear and the greed of the times louder than anything else on the shelf. The failure was never in the silver. The failure was in buying the noise instead of the metal. And the people who understand that, the ones who keep buying the boring stuck price and ignore the exciting one, they are not gambling at all. They are doing the oldest, steadiest thing there is, right alongside the central banks. Here is your one cheap entry ticket, the thing you can actually do this week for the price of a dinner out. You do not need 100 ounces. Go and buy 1 single ounce of silver while it is boring, while it is sitting in a channel that nobody is excited about, and just hold it, not to flip it, to own it, to have 1 ounce of real money that no bank can freeze, no printer can dilute, and no headline can talk you out of. That is your first ham. That is where every stacker I have ever known began. 1 boring ounce, bought on a day when silver was not on the news, because in the end, this was never really about the price at all. When you hold physical silver, you are not making a bet. You are stepping outside a system that has failed, right on schedule every single generation, and eaten away the value of the paper you were told to trust. You are becoming a person who cannot be switched off. If the banks freeze, if the screens go dark, if the paper promises turn out to be exactly the promises they always were, you still have something real in your hand. That is not gambling. That is the opposite of gambling. That is refusing to gamble on other people's paper. The men in that 1980 line were chasing a number. The stackers who slept fine at night were holding money. Do not be the man chasing the number. Be the one holding the money. Let me ask you 2 things down in the comments, and I read as many as I possibly can. First, tell me the very first piece of silver or gold you ever bought, and roughly what year it was. And second, tell me honestly, when silver was screaming up toward $120 this January, were you buying, selling, or just sitting on your hands? I want to see the pattern, because it never stops amazing me who bought and who sold. Thank you for spending this time with me. It means more than you know that a working man's plain talk about real money is worth an hour of your day. Stack smart, look after your own, and I will see you next time. And when that next time comes, subscribe, because I am going to put 2 silver charts side by side, this year's crash and the crash of 2008, and show you why the one everybody keeps comparing us to, 2011, is the wrong one entirely. There is a single tell hidden in those charts that says silver's biggest move is still in front of us, not behind us. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it.